known as the Adi mantra from the Sikh tradition. Om is the creative syllable, the energy of creation. So we're invoking the energy of creation and also, of course, invoking the inner guru, the inner guiding light, the inner wisdom that is in each and every one of us. Novelty in practice can be taken a couple of ways. Novelty in practice, on the one hand, asks us to consider the ways in which we work with bringing that which is new into practice, our sort of creativity as teachers. On the other hand, novelty in practice also means making novelty, making seeing with a fresh perspective a practice in and of itself. Ever since I've lived in New York, whenever I go to the Met, and for whatever reason, only when I go to the Met, but whenever I go to the Met, I don't take one of the maps that they give you at the reception desk. And the idea, I guess I wasn't really thinking that consciously about it, but the feeling was just like, let me just discover what it is I stumble upon, and let me just learn whatever it is I sort of wander into, instead of sort of having a pre-prescribed plan of exactly what I want to see. And in Bruce Grierson's essay, included in the focus of the month, he also describes taking a walk with a more meandering purposelessness, right? So he describes like letting the dog's attention be what directs your attention. Also, In the Artist's Way, a book about exciting your own creativity, bringing your own creativity forth. There's also prescriptions about taking walks that aren't sort of purpose-driven and pre-prescribed and distracted by other things. So, no podcasts, no music, etc. And just really letting your attention be fresh and unadulterated, right? And also in this book by Rebecca Solnit, A Field Guide to Getting Lost. Rebecca Solnit describes getting lost as being to lose yourself, even just for a moment, is to be utterly immersed in what is present, to be fully capable of being in uncertainty and mystery. So what all of these practices from all of these different places have in common is bringing about a practice in our lives that is that renews our attentiveness, our curiosity, our openness and receptivity, and also our responsiveness to the moment, right? So you could say that all of these practices are somehow a novelty practice, a practice of looking at things with fresh eyes. Even Bruce Grierson puts it so perfectly. He says, true newness is seeing the newness in something that was already there. So where do you like to get lost? Or I'm going to refer to it as getting lost, but it of course doesn't mean that. It actually means being very much there, right? And second question is, how do we then bring that into our experience as practitioners, or how as teachers can we bring that to the students within the we're in a yoga class, right? We're not walking around in the wilderness. So how do we bring that about in the experience of a yoga class? One suggestion that Jules makes in the focus of the month is to do a more sort of open awareness meditation. So instead of like super focusing the mind on, say, the breath or something like that, that one practices keeping a more open attention and sort of allowing for what calls your attention to arise without sort of denying anything or, kind of, again, pre-prescribing what you're experiencing, right? So I'm gonna stick a little bit to the sort of teaching side of things because I think this is a really also interesting topic for teachers to explore in our own teaching methods and ideas. So the aspect of getting lost, right? To just bring that back into the creative process. Of course, the thing that we need to take those kinds of walks or to have sort of that time in the Metropolitan Museum of Art or to have time to be creative, we need some sort of like relatively unstructured time in order to marinate with new ideas or notice new things or notice how two very different things are related to one another. So whether you're in the sciences or whether you're in the arts or whether you're a yoga teacher, it's almost necessary to have some non-prescribed time where you're able to make connections and kind of swim through ideas in a not pre-prescribed way. On the other hand, there is this concept in the creative arts of intentional constraints. Now, intentional constraints means you sort of put some limitations, some boundaries on that which you are creating. Because on the one hand, it's good to be able to swim around in a bunch of thoughts. On the other hand, if creativity has no containers, right, then it's just, chaos. There's no ways to sort of organize the thing, right? And a lot of us think creativity is like that. A lot of us think that creativity just means, being wild and doing whatever. But in fact, the most creative people are also those that are skilled on putting little constraints on their artistic endeavors. I'll give a couple of examples. One comes from my favorite musician, David Byrne, who describes that when he was, for example, sitting down to write a love song, that he would take the words that are very typically used in love songs, like baby, 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 and heart, and love, and darling, and he would eliminate those from his possibility, and he would sort of see, can I still write an effective love song that conveys the feeling without sort of resorting to certain handicaps or certain, go-tos. In some ways, we already have intentional constraints as yoga teachers. One is time, right? You have the time slot that you've been given to teach a class or a workshop. Another is the Jivamukti 14 points. Got to make sure that you are able to organize to get everything, done. And then within that, you're able to sort of move around and create and play. Also, in some ways, the focus of the month itself is one of these creative constraints in that it gives us sort of a swirl of concepts and themes and philosophical ideas to kind of center the teachings around for a given month. But even beyond those, sometimes in my teaching, I've also found it helpful to put my own intentional restraints on. For example, there's one built into the focus of the month, actually, to chant the same chant all month. And that not only will my confidence and competence build over time, I find, especially in those high parts, if I chant the same thing over the month, I get more comfortable, right? The students will get more comfortable and confident. And then maybe out of that confidence, some harmonizing can arise, or maybe you write your own melody over the course of the month. But see what arises when you put a container around that part of it. Or another that I've done in the past is I'll purposefully sort of rotate the focus of my class from standing to forward bending to twisting to back bending to, so that I'm making myself, for example, go more into practicing twists and learning how to teach twists in maybe a way that I wouldn't necessarily gravitate to that category of asanas, for example, or or working towards an asana that I don't personally resonate with, right? And seeing like what needs to happen to make this possible for my practice, right? So there's many ways to grow as a teacher and to sort of deepen and strengthen and broaden our skills as teachers by, again, putting these little intentional restraints on things. So anyway, those are just my initial thoughts. There's so much here. It's going to be a blast to teach. I'm excited. Stick around and I'll show you the chords for the chant.